It is a mimer from Shabbos Parshas Kisavoi, Chai El. So the Rebbe is going to bring associations between the Parsha and El in general, and specifically also with Chai El. Says, Havaya Hamart Hayom Gomer Hashem, you have made different explanations of the word Hamarta, you have made praised, etc. Havaya Mircha Yom Hashem made you praised or gave you renown. But again, Chassidus is going to explain it on a deeper and different level of the word Amira. Hine HaKesher, the pasuk Zel Chodesh Elul, the connection between this pasuk in our parsha to the month of El, moving on to Mashakosov, Marsha is understood according to what Marsha wrote. The Hamart of Mircha, these two, that type of relationship, that Hashem made you, you made Hashem, Hamarta, whatever that is, and then Hamircha, Hashem made you. So it's the same thing, that type of relationship over here. Like I said, the change of a pasuk did not, just like in our pasuk in our parsha. First, it's Havaya Hashem that you made, praised, etc., which is Avodas Yisrael. First, starts off what the Yidden do. Afterwards, it's Hashem made you be the level of Emircha, which means Hagilim al the revelation from above. Kain who gave a pasuk anilo doidi v'doidi li. So too, it's also in the pasuk of I am to my beloved is to me. And that is also that type of relationship. First, there's I am to my beloved, like Havaya Hamart Hayom, and then there's the return. There's the Doidi Li, my beloved is to me. That's Havaya Hamircha. He says, which is the Rosh Tevis of El, so it has to do very appropriately with this time of the year that we read the Parsha. Pratis Yoser, and even more specifically, Shayach Pasuk Zel Chai El. This pasuk is connected to the 18th of El. More like it's known from the saying of my father-in-law, the Friedrich Rebbe. Shem Chassidim Rishonim, in the name of early Chassidim, that Shechai El Machnes Chai is Binyani El, that the 18th of El, which Chai means life and vitality. So what Chai El does, it immerses and invests and brings in life and vitality into the month of El. Moving the Pashtas, and it's also understood simply. Shemachnis Chayis Gam Binyani Ha'ikri Va'klali the Chodesh El. It brings in life and vitality also in the primary idea and the general idea of the month of El. Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li, I'm to my beloved is to me. There are many details of the month of El, preparing for Rosh Hashanah. It's a cheshbon nefesh. It's an accounting for the past year, but like in the main core aspect of the month of El is what's indicated in the Rosh Tevis. I am to my beloved is to me, because it's about that. Therefore, the chayis of Chayel is primarily and core in the idea of Anila Doidi V'Doidi. So the Rebbe says, again, what does it mean, primary versus not necessarily, other things? The Elul Shokoilos Avoida Begimul Akavin, the Torah Avoida Gimel Chasadim. That the Rishtevis of Elul includes the service in the 3 lines of Torah Avoida Gimel Chasadim. That we find the Torah is hinted in the fact, in Oliyadi V'Samtilach, that says that I occurred to his hand and I place it to you. That indicates the avodah having to do with Ari Miklat. And Ari Miklat, spiritually, the Chazal say that the words of Torah is a refuge. It's a refuge from the Yetzer Hara. And then also it says, Ish l're'ehu matanis lav yoinim, a man to his fellow and gifts to the poor. So that's also another Rosh Tevis of El. And that is the idea of tzedakah, Gemilas Chasadim. And Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li is the idea of davening. The avoid of love is primarily in davening. And also it hints, V'gam avoid sat tshuva v'nagulah. Tshuva is also hinted in the Rosh Tevis of El. It says, Umal Hashem Elokecha es levavcha ve'es levav. Es levavcha ve'es levav. Hashem will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring. So that's also Rosh Tevis El. It's referring to the avodas of tshuva. V'inyan ha'geula, it says, Ashur al Hashem v'yomru leimer. I will sing to Hashem, and they will say, saying. That's the idea again of the month of Elul, because the Shira, as we know, it says Az Yashir. Then they will sing. It's referring to the future song of Mashiach's times, not just the Shira on the Yam Suf. So we have 5 different things of the avoid of the month of El, but the primary idea of the month of El, the Rebbe says, is Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li, and in that Chai El invests and imparts the life force and the vitality. Now the Rebbe says, all of these type of things, all these type of relationships of us with Hashem could take 2 forms, 2 approaches. After least we're basically finding this itself, it's possible to be in 2 approaches, 2 ways. Either in a way of a revelation from above. Similar to the avoid of the month of Nisan, that it starts off first, doidili. First we say, my beloved is to me, and then we say, ani loy, I am to him, which is a different pasuk in Shir HaShirim. And that is referring to the avoid of the month of Nisan, because that's the approach that Hashem took with us during the month of Nisan. Initially, the King of Kings, the Eibishter, revealed himself upon them in his own glory and essence and redeemed them. And only following that was the avoid of I am to my beloved. Or either it was in a way of going from below to above. Similar to the avoid of the month of Tishrei. Tishrei has to be, even though we're talking about beforehand, so preparing for Tishrei, but the whole idea of Tishrei is not about the revelation from above like Pesach, that the Eibishter revealed himself upon us and just schlepped us out of the tomb of Mitzrayim. Tishrei is all about what we bring to the table. How come? During Tishrei, it's emphasized the great advantage and quality of the avodah of Yidden. Because Tishrei is the time of the creation of man. To make, which make Hashem, Hashem said, to make man in our form and in our likeness. Interestingly, it's connected also with our parsha, because the Torah of our parsha says, you made Havaya speak. What does it mean, you made Havaya speak? That's going to be the literal translation of Hamarta from the word speech. Amira, Asaram Amoris. Vayoyim Hashem. Kiloimar hafaltas Hashem. You caused Hashem sheyoymar maimer zen nasad mitzalmein kidmeseinu. That Hashem should say this utterance of let's make man in our form and in our likeness similar to us. In other words, that the very creation of man was because of man. We engendered that. We caused that. So that's the whole idea of Tishrei, that it's about us. It's about what we bring to the table. It's about our avodah, not about what Hashem does for us, like in this. Well, Prati is Yisr, even more so. This is all referring to the descent of the neshama into the body. In other words, that there is the not just the creation of the person, but which is the nas adam tzalmeinu kidmaseinu, but even more after or after forming the body, you have the bringing the neshama down into the body. That is caused by us. Like it says, that Hashem blew into his nostrils the soul of life. So that is even more than just a nas adam tzalmeinu kidmaseinu, where it's primarily talking about the body, etc. All of this is a result of our avodah and the importance of our avodah. That's why initially it's I'm to my beloved, and afterwards my beloved is to me. Therefore, coming back to what he said before, that the main point of El is the Rosh Tevis of Anila Doidi Li, because The whole idea of El is about the avodah of Adam, because leading into Rosh Hashanah and Tishrei, which is about the primary place that man has. That is why the main Rosh Hashanah and the general Rosh Hashanah of the month of El, though we have a whole bunch of other Rosh Hashanahs, is I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. All matters are hinted in the Rosh Hashanah of El, which I don't remember if I mentioned before. Davening is hinted in Anilu Doidi V'Doidi as well. But there is also the general, the big picture of Anilu Doidi, that it's about my work, my service to Hashem. Whether it's Torah, whether it's davening, whether it's Mil Chasadim, whether it's Tshuva, whether it's Geula, it's all about what I am doing. The Rebbe explains in the Sikha that even Geula, if it's part of the avoid of the month of El, what's the idea of Geula? Geula is something Hashem does. But it's all about our focus on the Geula. How we have to await the Geula, and we have to expect it every day, and then we have to demand from Hashem to bring the Geula, and so on. So everything, all the different components, and all the different aspects that we talk about in the month of El, it's all about what I, as a Yid, which the whole creation revolves around us, that the whole creation was for the sake of man, is what am I bringing to the table, what am I adding? As Havaya Hamarta, first, there's you, the Yid, made Hashem chashiv, important, etc., Hamarta, and then only afterwards there's the Doidi Li, V'acharkach V'avaya Mircha, and afterwards there's what Hashem did for us, and does for us. And this itself, in this itself, the 18th of Elul, immerses and invests a special life force and vitality in all of these matters, in addition to the general idea of the month of El, the primary idea of the month of El. The month of El being the idea of Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li, that it's about my avodah, it's about the Yid approaching Hashem, it's about all around the person. In addition to that, Chai Elul brings life force and vitality to that avodah, to that approach. Let's continue the next page, next paragraph, page 532, second page. What it says that Havaya, you were Hamarta. So the Alter Rebbe has an interesting explanation of the word Hamarta, going to the literal meaning of Amira, like we have already mentioned in the previous paragraph. The Alter Rebbe explains over there in the Torah, the koy ala dibor be'oisies ha'toira limit ha'toira. Ha'amarta is amira, speech. It's talking about the speaking in the words, in the letters, in the language of Torah. In other words, Havaya Marta Yom is talking about Torah study. So the Rebbe explains, what is this emphasis specifically on Torah study? So he says, we can say the explanation this is, that the pasuk says, in the Chazal say in the pasuk, concerning the pasuk that it says in Kehelas, Iyov, that a person was born to toil. So the Gemara says like this: the Eini Day, I do not know. The Gemara says, Im la'amal malacha, is it the toil of work? Oy la'amal sicha v'cholu, is it the toil of speech? Umaskanas ha'gemara the koyal amal Torah. And the conclusion of the Gemara is that's referring on the toil of Torah. Now, the very fact that Rebbe is going to say, the very fact that there is a possibility over here of other things that we may have thought about, that a person was born for some other types of amal, some other types of toil. Obviously, it's not talking about melacha in the literal sense. That's why a person was placed here on this earth to go ahead and do work, to become a blacksmith, to till the fields. That's not the amal melacha. And the same thing, amal sicha, you should be talking all day. Obviously, when the Gemara has a hava amina, it has a possibility of something, it means to say something deep, even with the amal melacha and the amal sicha. So he says in the fourth line from the top, though also the Havamina, the possibility that the Gemara entertains, perhaps, must also have some logic to it and must also mean something. Why is that so? How can Amal Malacha be any significance? Because Amal Malacha does not mean literally physical labor, but Kigam in Amal Malacha the koyal ma'isa mitzvahs. Amal sicha the koyal avodas tefillah yesh b'mayla gedolah. Also the idea of the toil of work that's referring to the actions of mitzvahs, and the toil of speech that's going on the avodah of davening, where we're pouring out our hearts for Hashem. That's also referred to as sicha in the Torah. So they have great qualities, and that's why there would be even a possibility that the Gemara would entertain that the amal that a person is born for, the work that a person is born for, is the work of mitzvahs or the work of davening. Despite the fact that there's room to say that's what the person was born for, the conclusion of the Gemara is that the creation of man is specifically for the toil of Torah. That is also concerning the explanation. The pastor said that you made Hashem, like Anila Doidi, you made Hashem important. The Koyal Klolos Haisers Losata. We're saying you made it. It's talking about something that's coming from us. It's coming from the inspiration down here below, which is Klolos Avodas Adam, which is going on the general avoid of a person. Yet the Alter Rebbe says, the main explanation of this is referring to the toil of Torah, and that's why the Alter Rebbe says, that it's the idea of the speech in the words of Torah, that the Yidden speaking the words of Torah is Havaya Marta. That's what it means, that you made Hashem speak. If we're talking about my learning Torah, what's it mean? Havaya Marta, you made Hashem speak. It's us speaking. So he says, when we speak, we're making Hashem speak in Torah. You made him to be someone that is saying, someone that's speaking. Chazal say, whoever reads a pasuk in Tanakh, whoever learns Mishnayos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu koyde v'shoyne kenegdo, Hashem is also studying opposite him. Meaning that when I learn Torah, I am causing Hashem to say words of Torah as well. So that's Pshat Havaya Hamarta, that you made Hashem say the words of Torah when you speak words of Torah yourself. So what's the result of that? Vavaya Hamircha. So he says, V'zeh poyel, and this affects Sheyeh Vavaya Hamircha, that should be Hashem makes you speak. What does that mean? Hashem makes you speak. It says, it says, I will place my words in your mouth. That the person needs to be cognizant and become so totally bottled to the words of Hashem that he is just speaking and repeating Hashem's words. He feels that's Hashem's speech of Torah. So through the avoid of a Yid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Torah, so now Hashem says the Torah, but in such a type of way, in such a way that the person is only responding after the reader, that he doesn't feel like he's the initiator, he's the originator over here, but he's only repeating Hashem's ideas and Hashem's thoughts, like it says, Tam l'shoinim l'secha, that my tongue shall respond to your words, meaning that it's a responsive reading, meaning we are not saying it on our own, we're just repeating what Hashem says. So that's the Havaya Marta of Havaya Mircha. We make Hashem talk, because when we learn Torah, so then Hashem learns facing us, and then through that, through Hashem's learning, it makes us learn as well in a way that we feel that it's not us, it's not our doing, we're just repeating Hashem's words. According to what was explained previously, that this pasuk is similar to what it says in the pasuk, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Nimtza comes out, Shagam, the pasuk, also the pasuk of I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. The primary explanation is that's referring to Torah study. That's why he continues right after the pasuk on Yula Doidi V'Doidi Li. It says the one that goes to pasture grazes amongst the roses. So the Alter Rebbe L'Kutei Torah brings down a Maimer Chazal. What's the idea of the roses? What does this have to do? Chazal said, Sheshoinim b'halachas, they are reviewing and studying halachas. It's referring to the study of the laws of Torah. So we see this connection between Anila Doidi and Torah study. Just like we made the connection before, Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li is reflected in Hamarta Vashem Hamir Chayoim. That's talking about Torah study. The same thing in the pasuk Anila Doidi. It concludes with Haroy B'Sheshanim, has to do with the laws of Torah. Another thing that we see about Sheshanim that has to do with Torah study. In addition to this, the Sheshonim halacha seems to be talking about only halacha, rules, the actual psak din. What about the parts that we need to struggle in before we get to the psak din? When we learn the Gemara, when we learn the whole discussion, the toil, the give and take in Torah. So he says that's also included in this, as it's also included in the word Sheshanim. How is it included in the word Sheshanim? Okay, movement is all it's understood from this. Sheshanim yesh bagimel alin kedisa b'zoyer. The Zohar brings down that the rose has 13 petals. These correspond to the 13 principles that we say every morning. We say Rabbi Shmuel Loimer before Haidu. We say the 13 principles by which the Torah is derived. That is, the halacha is derived. In other words, that's all the part of Torah before we come to the halacha, all the toil in Torah. And that's all hinted that Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li is a Rebbe Sheshanim express itself in Torah study, like the pasuk Havaya Marta Havaya Mircha, that's referring to Torah study as well. On the second page of the Maimer. That which we said, that through the saying in the Torah study down here below, we affect the saying of the Torah above, like we said before, and that Hashem says it to us and makes us realize how we're just repeating after Him. There are many ways how this can express itself. It's not just about Hashem making us say, it's in a broader sense as well. Other things that Hashem says as well are included in this. Echad, one thing is, through the study of Torah, we affect the saying of the 10 utterances that with them the world was created. That means the existence of the world the way it is, meaning that the world continues existing. In other words, it's not any addition to the world, it's just that the world should survive and go on. Okay, being in Matan Torah, like it's known concerning what it says in Matan Torah, She'eretz Yara V'Shakata. Prior to Matan Torah, it says that the earth was fearful and then it calmed down because the Hashem made a condition with the world, and He said, if the Yidden will accept the Torah, so then it's fine. But if not, I will return the entire world to Toyu Vavoyu. I will destroy the world, no purpose in the world. So the world was trembling before the Yidden decided to accept the Torah. When the Yidden said, okay, we will accept the Torah, then it calmed down. So what do we see from this? How the entire world is dependent upon Torah. The Chol Kiyum Olam Torah B'Torah, the entire existence of the world is dependent upon Torah. Lefiza Nimtz, according to this, comes out. The Pirish Savaya Marta Havaya Mircha, which is also on the Doidi V'Doidi Li, who, what does it mean? That you made Hashem speak and Hashem made you speak, which is also down the Doidi relationship. Everything that's drawn down from above, including about the ongoing existence of the world, it's all dependent on a person's service. We could say, this is also the content of the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov and the Pasuk, Hashem is your shadow. Maybe like the Rebbe Levitzke brings down the Meragle Bepuma the Baal Shem Tov. This is commonly said by the Baal Shem Tov, V'ya'omer tamid al pasuk zeh, and he constantly said about this pasuk of Havaya Tzilcha, shekishem shatzeil hareu toli b'davar zeh she'menu nasa tzeil, just like a shadow is dependent on the thing that is throwing the shadow, that is making the shadow. V'chol pulois v'inyonav hem kfishu b'mishu goyim latzeil, and all of the actions and all the matters of the shadow, the movements of the shadow, the shape of the shadow, all of these things are reflecting the thing that is giving off the shadow. So too, metaphorically speaking, about the Yidden, that all the Amshachas are Havaya Tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. That means that Hashem's everything, Hashem's all the pa'ulas, all the activities that Hashem does is dependent upon the actions of Yidden. Top of the third page. According to this approach, if so, then the avoid of the Yidden is not actually making something novel and something new, but rather it's rather those amshachas that were coming down initially on their own are now dependent in the avoid of the Yidden, that what initially came down when the Eibshter initially created the world, now the world is waiting for us to continue that. But it's not a new thing that we're causing. So that is one level of Havaya Marta, that we cause the rejuvenation, the constantly going on of the Asara Amoras of the world. And then there's a higher level. Concerning this, Chazal said, on three matters the world stands. We make the world be something that is solid, it's standing, which before, without the avoid of Yidden, it's not that way. The oilam, huloshin, helen behester. The word oilam is the word concealment and covering. The Indian hamidahu. What's the idea of making the world stand? We are making the covering of the world cease to cover. We are revealing what's concealed and covered up in the world. This means through our avodah, that which is the godly revelation that's concealed and covered in the chain order of descent comes out in a revealed way. Like the teaching of Baal Shem Tov, the well-known teaching of Baal Shem Tov, always Hashem. Your word is standing, set in the heavens. Shekol in Yonei Ha'olam Loya, the entire idea of the world and everything that fills it. V'chol Seder Ishtalshus, the entire chain order of descent. Misavim Kol Rega Mechadosh are coming into being every moment anew. I did Dvar Havaya Nitzah Behem, through the Dvar Hashem that is set in them. V'ad Shedvar Havaya, away from the Nitzah Davke, to such a degree that the word of Hashem is in the word of Nitzav. Nitzav is more than just present or embedded or invested, but Nitzav is used in connection with the king. It says Nitzav Melech, the pasuk says, which means the way it's set means a solid, powerful way how something is set. Oops, lost my place over a second. That means that the Dvar Havaya, instead of being concealed and hidden, it is ruling and controlling the world instead of the world controlling and covering over the Dvar Hashem. To such a degree that the way the Dvar Havaya rules over the world is not against their will, but out of their own will, that they choose to and they want to have this. And his kingship, with his will, they accepted upon themselves. And this revelation comes about also through the service of a person that Hashem you made speak, and in other words, it's not just the maintenance of this world that we cause. The first level that we spoke about on the previous page, Havaya Tzilcha, etc., etc., but we are causing a revelation of godliness which previously was not revealed. And this revelation is in such a way that permeates the world, that the world wants it and is open to it and is accepting the kingship of Hashem in a willful and wanting manner. This is what the Chazal say concerning the Rosh Hashanah. She'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem says that in Rosh Hashanah Imru L'fanei Malchi Shkol Mechuni Aleichem. Say before me the psukim of Malchios to make me king over you. Hanish Yisrael Adi Avidasim, that Yidden through their service Megalim B'chol Olam Kula Es Malchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sheba'olam. The Yidden through their avodah reveal in the entire world the kingship of Hashem that is in the world.